Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's continue our game of Hermitage, Strange Case Files on Nintendo Switch. Mysterious symbols, shrines, gods, and messengers. Handmade book with unique binding, the author's unknown. The book is very obscure. The front and back cover have a plating made of walnut wood, held together by a string made of sheep's intestine. The author writes about bizarre advanced creatures. He claims that they have a strong spiritual connection to beings he refers to as ancient gods. This connection is the reason for their mindless servitude and them viewing these ancient gods as masters. So many of these creatures are mentioned that I have to write them down one by one to give them some kind of order. The writing style and font are unusually delicate, immediately drawing in the reader and giving them a strange sense of familiarity. The Halberd. This book shows modern craftsmanship, but it's still very tattered. The book is framed in a very traditional style. The corner of the cover is cracked, and the remaining part of the cover has traces of some kind of seal, obscuring everything but the word collection. The book seems to have changed hands many times. The surface is damaged. Some of the pages are dangerously close to falling out when you flip through them. The front page has been glued to hard paper and was printed in red. It contains quotes from historical leaders of the past. This book is an extensive and detailed record of an ancient general's various conquests and expeditions. It chronicles every single victory and loss. After every victory, he would lead his entire army to hold a grand sacrifice, holding up a seal towards the sky. The text says, We shall forever stand like rocks and be remembered. They will chant our names in the glorious songs and celebrate us in joyous dance. Let the beast be forever on our side. Follow the ceremonial rites and chant along, with your voice twice as loud as your harvest twice as fruitful. Let us bask in joy and happiness, for good fortune favors us all, and we shall be protected against whatever sorrow and misery lies out there. The book describes the exact time and cardinal point in which each sacrifice was held, but the format doesn't resemble that of any known calendar. The author drew a star with a strange mark on it on the last page. Its meaning is unclear. Let's see. A rough 32-page booklet. The cover appears to be hand-drawn. It's small and could easily fit into any pocket, indicating that the author intended it for it to be read on the go. The old Red Cross logo is printed on the back of the book, but it looks more like a red crescent. The book describes medical techniques and their practical application in the wild as well as in more populated areas. Humorous illustrations show the different possibilities of failure. In the book, the author mentions several ways of dealing with bizarre wounds. The illustration shows strange wounds that could have been caused by a common knife or firearm. There's a list of various secret herbal remedies for different internal diseases, often used by ancient indigenous cultures around the world, as well as a variety of traditional massage techniques that are said to be effective. The author warns us not to abandon common sense and rational thinking when it comes to treatment methods, because many things can't be explained by blindly putting our faith in science. If your patient shows signs of physical deterioration for no immediate apparent reason, then they are likely to be suffering from a grave condition. Please take adequate care of them and stay vigilant. This is a serious matter, and there are ancient historic records that mention people dying from it without anybody having seen it coming. A book with a black cover, bronze lettering. The author is unknown. The brief introduction, as well as the full text, is written in German, and there is an extensive table of contents with all the different chapters. The book mainly revolves around the theme of the world and the self, and contains opinions on a wide variety of philosophical topics. The author's point of view is extremely idealistic and definitely not shared by the general population. The author believes that our perception of the world is actively shaped and altered by all other people surrounding us. Thus, after being born, humans only have a very short window of time in which they can experience the world in their own unbiased way, unswayed by others. Before others influence us, we have infinite ways of looking at the world around us. Our lower self, however, cannot fully carry the burden of such limitless imagination, thus curtailing the world's containment. Try to imagine a world filled with the same endless potential as your pristine, untouched mind. Return to the same state of mind you were in before you let others shape it. That's the way to truly bring about actual change. Analyzing and dissecting our ego is the only way to true ascension and self-improvement. Becoming aware of our artificial limits and the shackles put on us by never thinking for ourselves allows us to embrace who we are and make a change. The book's last page once contained a self-portrait of the author, but it has been scratched out with a knife, leaving behind only blots of ink. 7 Seas. There are obvious traces that this book has been read a lot. It looks ancient even though it isn't an original, but just a transcript of it. The whole text is a vertically arranged ballad using simple Chinese characters with a rhythm, beat, and harmonies added on the side. Much of the ballad is about a fantastical being named Great Mother. She blesses the ships that head out to sea, controls all living things in the ocean, and disperses storms and other potentially dangerous weather. The description makes her sound quite omnipotent. The battle has clear instructions on how to ask for her blessing. While asking for whatever it is you want her to help you with, you make a promise to fulfill a certain condition. An example is given. Come to me, Great Mother, return to me safely from sea. I'll gift you tea, I'll bring you meat. Great Mother, in a black dress, please come to me. Judging from the numbers, there should be 9 songs. Oddly enough, the book only contains 6 songs. The other 3 are nowhere to be found, and it's not like any pages have been removed. I think we read through all of these, right? Yeah, that's right. The cat with tentacles. That would be scary. Get through this stuff here. Like Seraphim. So I'm pretty sure we've read all these now. That's about right. Yeah, we would read this one too. Alright, that takes care of all of them. Wow, it's so much messier than I thought it would be. The entrance to the alley is quite narrow, Neko sighs. A pity we couldn't do this via a search engine. Watch your step. Who knows what could be littered across the ground here. So dirty, so messy. I want to go back. Are you a 3-year-old? You complain just as much. We're already here, so let's just get this over with. Here, these are the things you asked for. Here, these are the things you asked for. Wait, I thought it was basically just a system refresh of the phone. Who do you think I am? Why have so many parts if you're not going to use them? I didn't expect it to be this small. How long will it work? It'll work until you're bored of it. Do you know how low the energy consumption of a recorder is? The quality of this thing is way worse, so a simple battery will keep it powered for a few days. Just put it wherever you feel you need it. Remove the tape from the back and press the switch, and the signal will come back to me. If you're worried about it being tracked, you can throw it away later. Okay. What? No more comments? First things first, I don't have any warranty to cover this. I only have a limited budget for the parts, so I had to make do. Neko, this isn't the first time you've done something like this, is it? Well, this time there's a budget, and I'm, on the store manager's side. Come to think of it, it's thanks to these gadgets that I was able to get to know the manager and live the life that I'm living now. No wonder he approached you for help. That's because science and technology have advanced so quickly over the past few years that old people like him can't handle it anymore. In his eyes, I'm probably a sorcerer. I can imagine that picture somehow. Even though he's cooped up at home, it doesn't mean we have to be. Lighten up a bit. Your eyes are glazing over. Did he tell you anything about me? Well, a little. To be honest, there are plenty of things he doesn't have a clue about. I can't stand nosy people. So this isn't a problem for you? What do you mean? If you keep investigating, you may find yourself in the same situation as your previous master. After all, the deaths are so similar that they were never properly wrapped up. If you ask me, there's a good chance that there's a connection here. You seem to have done your homework. Just wait until curiosity kills me. My name is Cat, after all. It doesn't matter. What the old fool did had nothing to do with me. All I know is that no matter what we find out next, I'm going to keep going, unlike him. Pity. Such a pain in that. What? Nothing. So what's next? Let's split up. I'll hide a camera nearby, you take care of the other locations. After that, I'll start questioning nearby residents, and you can wait by the entrance to the community. Wow, sure sounds like I've got a real important role, huh? How am I supposed to act like a regular cop if I'm standing around with you? Wait for me and text me if anything goes wrong. Remember the signals? 2 for all good, 3 for retreat. Phone call means help. Why can't I just send any number in a pinch? We don't want any hasty mistakes to happen. We have good cover, but once it's blown for good. We can only play this card once, so let's not waste it. If you call me, I'll run first and talk later. Anyway, let's just play our parts. Exuding an aura of youthful carelessness, Neko slips away into the shadows, appropriately cat-like. Justin takes a satisfied look at the soon-to-be surveillance equipment. Alright, let's get to work. I wonder if those two are okay. The first time I met Neko, she was holding onto her backpack for dear life, even though she was hungry, cold, and alone. A runaway orphan with nothing but her exceptional knack for technology to her name. Because of her life during those days, she knows every nook and cranny in the city. Justin might know his way around too, but there's a big difference between staying hidden and blending in with the crowd. And that's just considered the normal parts of the city. The deliverer's words still bother me. But as always, there's no use in rushing things. I don't think I have the ability to blend in with the crowds like Neko does. The sun right outside the door is already too dangerous for me. Besides, if I go out... what would happen then? I have this unpleasant feeling in my gut, but I can't quite wrap my head around it. Should I forget about it and just wait it out? Rather than getting myself all worked up, I need to calm down and prepare myself for what's coming. I rifle through the cluttered papers on the desk and retrieve the photos Justin left. The house is more recognizable than Neko had imagined it to be. Whether it's the height or the rather unusual shape of the building, it's very different from the mess all around it. It's as if it's resisting its surroundings rather than having been forgotten. Even the chaos around it hasn't managed to engulf it yet. She wasn't too surprised to learn that there were only 2 elderly people living in the entire building. The strange part would be if there weren't any secrets hidden inside. Neko places a camera on the edge of a utility pole right outside the building. The trees on either side of the road offer a lot of spots to hide and observe from. But that will be enough. Justin may have many creative ideas, but Neko has her own concerns. There doesn't seem to be anyone around. The rust and dust on the windows makes the state of occupancy obvious. As far as Neko can remember, elderly folks are always up early, so the only 2 occupants of the place are probably 2. Seems like a good start so far, but meeting strangers in this building 2 days in a row might seem a little suspicious. Neko pushes open the half-open door to the building. The humidity in the air makes her frown. Maybe the residents cleaned the corridor, which doesn't seem much out of the ordinary. Just like Justin said, the wall of the corridor has dark marks along the bottom. The small light bulbs overhead aren't very bright, and even if they were, they wouldn't light up the place entirely, so this is pretty much a blind spot. Neko puts the matter aside for now and makes her way up the stairs. The doors on either side of the 4th floor are closed, and though it's close to lunchtime, it doesn't smell like cooking. Neko presses her ear against the door to apartment 412, a stale smell of rust mixed with mold filling her nostrils. Although she is close to the door, she can hear nothing from inside. There's no sign of human activity, so it looks like Justin's worries about getting caught are unfounded, at least for now. The lock isn't very sophisticated, but that's not the goal today. 3 more floors left to check. The door to the rooftop is still locked and the chain in front of it is pretty thick. However, it only has a small number of links, so it seems as if the person who placed it there didn't intend to keep it locked forever. Despite the rusty parts, the keyhole is covered in bright scratches and the hinges seem to be working just fine. That means the door is used regularly. Seems like a few pieces of wire won't do the trick here, but the door is evidently still in working order. Since it can't be opened, there's one last thing to be checked. Neko grabs her phone, switches to flashlight mode, and points at the door. She didn't have enough money to buy a purple flashlight, so she has to cover the lens with a piece of tape that she painted with a marker beforehand. They aren't very obvious, but there are definitely some brown spots near the door frame. Neko tries to reassure herself that the blood could be from a chicken or a duck. Some kind of detergent will probably look the same under violet light as well, though this does nothing to ease her trembling hands. With the help of the purple light and a brush, Neko gently swipes up some of the particles. Since Justin is in the loop now, maybe he'll be able to find a place to have these tested. It shouldn't be any trouble if it's mixed with a little dirt. Whatever it may be, she can't draw any conclusions from it yet. Justin hasn't sent any messages so far, so he's probably still checking in with the neighbors about the situation. Although the detective told her to wait at the entrance to the community, he obviously underestimated how worked up Neko is about this whole affair. There's still enough time left to try and break open the lock. Neko gets up and observes the keyhole carefully. Huh? What's that sound? What's that sound? The noise makes Justin look up from the conversation. It's probably the garbage truck again. It's so noisy. Seems like it. This place is such a headache, and it's been extraordinarily noisy lately. The man in front of him looks up and heaves a sigh. That a man in his 20s would choose to stay in such a place is somewhat suspicious, but Justin doesn't have the time to worry about that right now. Some questions have to be asked, and some questions you have to keep to yourself. First rule of successfully playing a part. He didn't identify himself to the tenant though, although Neko gave him some information on this regard. He started asking a lot of questions instead, as if he were familiar with the place. In a place like this, there's only a small chance of tenants trying to get to know their landlord, which gives Justin the perfect opportunity to take advantage of the situation. By forging some documents, the detective has turned into a spy. As long as he chooses the right words, the tightrope won't be impossible to walk. The most important thing is to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. This place might be cheap, but if you have a shoddy landlord, someone might come calling. Someone like me. What? I don't want any trouble. I'm sorry, but I can't help you. No need to apologize. This isn't about you, so don't take it personally. I'd just like to ask a couple questions, if I may. Well, I guess it's my duty as a resident to assist in your investigation. Justin would very much like to know what the residents think the investigation is about. All he did was ask about the condition of the neighborhood in a very direct manner, and the residents immediately changed their attitude, as if they knew something. This all seemed rather fishy. Did you ever see the landlord entering this building with any strange people? Someone you didn't know? No, he doesn't come here very often. He just yells at me to call someone else to fix my plumbing and electrical problems. So, you never got along exceptionally well. Well, it might be too much to ask in a place like this, but I don't mean to complain. And by the way, do you know if the access to the roof of this building is blocked? Huh? Not really. Did you want to go up there? Never mind. Do you know the buildings nearby? Have you ever heard of anyone who keeps birds, maybe pigeons, on the rooftop? I'm afraid pigeons wouldn't even learn to fly in such a cramped space. But I heard that some homeless people who were staying on the roof were kicked out several times. And this is the perfect chance to talk about what Justin really wants to know. He rearranges his thoughts, trying to continue the conversation as naturally as possible. Oh, you mean that tall building? No, I mean the other one. Hardly anyone lives over there. Since nobody really likes to talk about it, I never go there myself. I never go there either. So you've heard rumors. Since you can't see that building's rooftop from over there. I heard that sometimes there are strange noises upstairs. It scares the children around the neighborhood. Sometimes you can hear the sound of a violin too, which sounds even more creepy. A violin? It's nice to know that the residents here are into classical music. It was just a comparison. I've heard that it sounds completely out of tune, almost like an animal. Apparently it's been happening a lot over the past month. I get a shiver down my spine just thinking about it. So, when it comes down to it, you don't think there's a chance of someone hiding up there, do you? I didn't say that. After all, I don't know what exactly you're looking for. There's probably a lot of empty apartments and spaces around here, so I really couldn't say. To be honest, I have seen some strange faces wandering around here lately. They looked like they were all heading to that side of the building. And you didn't mention this until now? That's because, I don't know. Strangers aren't that unusual around here. After all, a lot of people live in the area and they move in and out frequently. I wouldn't be particularly surprised if a new family suddenly moved in opposite to me tomorrow. But the group of people I saw was different. They didn't seem like the kind of people that would be looking for an apartment around here. Oh, could you be more specific? There are often groups of students or colleagues who rent a place together to cut their expenses, but they're never more than 3 people. The group I saw consisted of about a dozen people, and they all seem to know each other. Maybe some shady company is using this place as a cheap place to rent. Who knows? But then they would appear more often, I suppose. I don't really keep track of them, though. Is that why you think they're not like the usual tenants? Oh yes, usually tenants wouldn't be hanging around the trash cans for no reason, would they? They're always hanging around in groups of 5. If it weren't for their neat clothing, they'd look like a bunch of garbage collectors. They hang around the trash cans? Do they look through the trash? I don't know. I don't want them to see me staring, you know? Okay, do you remember anything else that seems out of the ordinary? They look like the average residents, except for the fact that they're always hanging around in groups. Oh, but I did notice that They carry yellow handkerchiefs. Yellow handkerchiefs? They just carry them around in their pockets. There seems to be a lot going on around here, and the trash cans seem to be a popular meeting spot. Should I maybe call the police? Those people might be up to no good. Poking the bear only makes things worse, and you don't want any trouble, do you? This has to be handled one step at a time. I'll trust that you'll do a good job. And that's all for now. You might not see each other very often, but please keep an eye out in case you notice your landlord's acting strangely. Sooner or later, his curiosity will get the better of him. The detective decides to leave it at that and continue his investigation in the other buildings. How will I get in contact with you? I mean, if there's a problem and I'm not supposed to call the police... Don't worry, I'll give you my number. Huh? What? What's wrong? It's nothing. This is it. Justin calmly holds his phone up to show the man his number. For occasions such as these, it's always convenient to have 5 or 6 different phone numbers. Flustered, the man looks at the long list of phone numbers on Justin's phone. Got it? I won't take up any more of your time then. Take care. The detective takes his phone back, sliding it into his pocket as he steps away. No problem. Take care. After taking out his phone again, the detective's hands begin to shake. Before he left, he set his phone to only ring in case Neko messages him. He has remained silent ever since, yet now there are a lot of unread messages on it. 3 alerts, all from the store manager. Of course, he's been at Hermitage when they were preparing the operation, but it never occurred to Justin that he would send any instructions. Wait, why is he suddenly asking us to retreat? I hope both of them return safely. What's wrong? Oh, it's nothing. I smile and shove my phone back into my pocket. The strange guest seems a little unhappy about this, but he doesn't say anything else. The visitor has an unremarkable face and is wearing everyday clothes. He would disappear in a crowd in a matter of seconds. Ever since he entered the shop, this man has been extremely courteous and trying to keep a safe distance from everything around him, but this behavior disappeared the moment he opened his mouth. Unfortunately, nobody takes much notice of our store out here. At least it hasn't yet taken on the distinct smell of the aloe from outside. You must be wanting something in the store pretty badly to come all the way out here. We have our channels of information that lead us here. The rest is quite simple. Sure sounds like a convenient method of getting information. Don't you have quite a wonderful contact as well? I'd like to have a friend who can get his hands on so many precious books. We have a business license, you know. Although the place might not be in the best condition, everything you'll find on the shelves is legal. So, books like the history of cannibalism are legal too? Luckily, I sent a message to the others straight away and told them to retreat. Cold sweat is tingling at the base of my neck. The world is full of coincidences. The stranger pushes the book back onto the shelf, gently readjusting the bookends on either side. Your boss doesn't seem like a bad guy, so there's no need for you to act all tough. I can recite every book he's brought here, although that doesn't have anything to do with you. But deliberately hiding something from us is a different matter, and to be honest, I wouldn't recommend it. Nowadays, young people will basically believe anything they see on the news or on the internet, but I'm long past that. That was a nice speech on your part, but do you really think I'm so easily intimidated? Why is all this even necessary? It's just a book, and I don't even need to take it with me, but the knowledge hidden within its pages could be helpful to many people. I don't know what kind of deal you made with that guy. If it'll get you into trouble if I borrow it, why not let me have a look at it here? I realize that threatening you won't do me any good. Really? It sure seems like that's what you had in mind, considering that thing in your pocket. He answers my question with silence, but his hand doesn't leave his pocket. You don't seem like a particularly honest person, but that's not really my concern. You see, some knowledge is inherently dangerous, and the people who desire this knowledge never have the best intentions. I don't think that whatever you're holding in your right hand could be worse than your grim visage. That's what I'm really concerned about. How dare you say that to someone's face? It would be in poor taste to outnumber you, and I'd rather not make a scene if I can help it. However, if you keep resisting a cooperation, then this won't end well for your companions running around out there. Security isn't good in that area, so no one will notice if they just disappear. That ominous statement gives me instant goosebumps. The way he said out there sounded like he only has rudimentary information. Besides, if they'd already caught Neko and Justin, there would be no need to be so polite to me now. I clench my fists, take everything I have not to act on impulse. I've been wondering whether you might have made a mistake from the very beginning. Companions, I'm just a caretaker entrusted with keeping this place in order, and the stuff you see around here is all I'm involved in. Oh, is that so? There's nothing else for it. I put on a nonchalant face and shrugged dismissively. The visitor furrows his brow, and he as he pulls out his phone and heads for the door, as if wanting to confirm something with someone. Naturally, he isn't the only one who wants to check on the situation, but neither Neko nor Justin are replying to my messages. With an ominous feeling in the pit of my stomach, I put away my phone and try to regain my composure by taking several deep breaths. It isn't long before the unexpected visitor returns, sporting a poker face not unlike the one the book deliverer usually wears. Alright, I don't want to keep repeating myself. He sounds as if he's making an extremely reluctant compromise. I guess it hasn't come to the worst yet, then. Maybe we're both taking this a little too seriously. I don't want to repeat myself either. I only care about the books that are kept here, and I understand the weight of the knowledge they bring with them. So, if this is truly important to you, prove it to me. Sticking to your principles so narrow-mindedly will cost you dearly sooner or later. As long as I remain the only person who knows which shelf each book can be found at Hermitage, fate will allow me to be a little stubborn. And we visionaries have to pick up the pieces. No? You're no layman. You know the things we've done. Troublemakers attract each other. Now I finally understand what that means. You know what happens if people like us screw things up, don't you? Rags and dustpans won't be enough to clean up the mess. This isn't something that can be solved by brute force. Believe me, we've tried. So, you're looking to gain more knowledge? We thought that was the one thing we had enough of. I don't know how well you know that friend of yours, but he definitely is not as respectable as he looks. In any case, you're right. We need more professional knowledge. We may have relied on our elders in the past, but nowadays we have to rely on books. After more than 20 years, time is running out. The police are smart, but if they don't get it right, we won't be the only ones who suffer. You're not going to try to convince me with something like people's lives are at stake, are you? Every time I listen to you, I ask myself, how did someone like you end up in a place like this, actually taking care of things? What a statement. But yes, I can understand your sense of urgency now. The man shrugs and smiles maliciously. Which books are you looking for anyway? That guy brings an entire library with him every time he visits, and I can't promise that he labels the books correctly every time. I pull a volume called Ancient Prescriptions from the bookshelf to prove my point. What a mess. We're looking for a Chinese book related to stargazing, which describes how to observe a certain area of the sky with traditional techniques to analyze time. It's written with a special complexity, so it's rather difficult to understand without any additional study. You know approximately when it was published, or which language it was written in? Are there specific writing elements such as poetic or autobiographical paragraphs in it? Those are a lot of questions just to find a book. If you just want an ordinary book on stargazing, I have a shelf of them over there. The book describes a ritual that, if executed successfully, may achieve remarkable things. I remember that it had some illustrations, but they weren't very well drawn. And by remarkable, you mean leaving this world, the one we've failed to achieve. Once the ceremony has been completed, you are taken to a whole new realm. Believe it or not, this is a place that is truly free of pain and sorrow. Spiritual transcendence? No, it's a pure kind of detachment. Staying in this world has no spiritual or physical value at all. Sounds like running away. Of course you wouldn't understand. Just help us and no one will get hurt, okay? I think I know which book you're talking about. I'll go find it for you. I try to act as if it suddenly dawned on me and gently push the strange guest away from the bookshelf where he is standing. Looking very unsure of himself, his eyes wander across the room. I use this opportunity to take a copy of the halberd and hide it on the top shelf. I have to eliminate any chance of him finding what he's looking for. I pick some plausible alternatives from the shelves and place them on the desk. Chinese non-classical articles. It's all here. The strange guest tries to remain calm, but I can see the muscles in his jaw twitching. He takes a stack of books and lays them out on the desk one by one, bending over to examine them as if he were looking for hidden treasure. It isn't long before his poker face crumbles. He looks displeased. Is something wrong? Are you sure these are all the books you have? These are all the books that fit your description. If you don't mind reading foreign languages, then I do have some good ones like 100 Militin Sonnen as well. What would I want with rubbish like that? His voice is low and threatening. I stand my ground and put on an innocent face. You shouldn't call somebody's honest efforts rubbish. However, I do apologize for not having everything here. Look again. If this man had a switch, it would be switched to angry right now. Actually, it might be broken altogether. Just as expected, the next step is to wear him down. I put on a helpless smile and make some room for him next to the shelf. Alright, let's take a look together. Don't come back here. That guy really gets on my nerves sometimes. First telling us to come back, then saying to stay away. What is it he actually wants? Neko shoves the phone back into her pocket, kicking around some pebbles at her feet. The loud noise downstairs was nothing of importance. After carefully checking that the air was clear, Neko tiptoed down the stairs only to find a sanitation worker was emptying the garbage cans outside. Perhaps Justin and the store manager are rubbing off on her and she's become more nervous herself. This could have gone really wrong. The narrow corridor isn't broad enough for more than one person, so if one of the residents had come home at that very moment, Neko would have been trapped. Rushing down the stairs in a panic like that was a bad idea. The corridor is dark and the sanitation workers outside seem to not notice Neko. He rummages through the trash can, then closes the lid again and leaves. Oddly enough, he didn't take a single bag with him. Neko covers her nose and lifts up the lid of the trash can. The smell isn't as bad as expected. The large plastic container is almost empty. That doesn't make sense. Even if there are only 2 people living in the building, they still produce waste, so the trash cans should be fuller. The rim of the trash cans are stained and it looks as if they've been used a lot, but apparently this place isn't refined enough to use plastic bags. She closes the lid again and claps her hands together vigorously, trying to get the dirt off them. The sanitation worker also took a look, indicating that there should have been litter here. Did someone take it away before the garbage disposal arrived? An intriguing thought. Neko crouches down and scans the ground around the trash can for further clues. Huh? Something seems to be lying between the uncut grass and damp leaves. It's mixed in with some pieces of plastic packaging that clearly strayed off course as they were being thrown away. Further proof of Neko's suspicions. Neko steps over a branch and begins to pick through the plastic on the ground. The wet grass has made even more of a mess of everything. Even so, she quickly picks out the thing that caught her eye. This can only mean trouble. Ignoring the smell, she hastily wipes the object off with a paper towel and stuffs it into her pocket. Since the store manager gave instructions, it would probably be best to meet up with Justin at the entrance to the community. I wonder what he'll have to say about this. Meanwhile, the kids on the street are growing more and more apprehensive. Having to wait around outside for hours on end, you know, you really could be a little clearer about what's going on next time. Next time? Good God, I hope there won't be a next time. Ugh, I'm starving. Believe me, I don't feel good about having you stand there for such a long time, but that was our only option. I didn't even realize it was that long. After a roller coaster ride of a day, the 3 of us have reunited at Hermitage once again at last. The unwanted guest searches the bookstore all afternoon. I kept a close eye on him until he lost his motivation and finally decided to give up. He looked frustrated and annoyed when he left, but most importantly, he didn't find the halberd. Having to play dumb while he was asking questions throughout his whole visit has taken a hefty mental toll on me. It sounded serious, so speak up. What's going on? You're still breathing, no broken bones, everything seems okay, at least for now, right? For the time being, yeah, but I'm still glad I sent you a message in advance. I noticed a bunch of people outside when I came back. Does that have anything to do with what you were saying? Hold on a minute, what? Justin glares at Neko. A bad idea as it turns out, as Neko quickly grabs him by the collar and raises her voice. Do you think I was dragging you along to buy ice cream or something? You idiot! Do you think I can't control my appetite? No, but how could anyone be thinking about ice cream in this weather? Alright, you two, calm down. Everyone's in one piece, and that's what counts. Anyway, back to those people Neko talked about. I actually think there could be a connection. You're not stirring up trouble with the locals, are you? Provoking them? People like that don't necessarily abide by any laws. This is a series of murder cases. Danger comes with the territory. You have to admit that it reaches a new level when the danger's at your doorstep. The guy might not be the actual culprit, but there's still a connection somehow. That became apparent when he explicitly mentioned the Kanyang district. If he hadn't, I'd have thought he was just another slightly weird and unsavory customer. I'm used to those after all. It sounds like he knew who we are and what we're up to. He must have been trying to intimidate us, right? It was hard to tell how many details he actually knew or how much of it was just a bluff. Threatening us and looking for a book already proves that he's involved. He's up to something. Yeah, him looking for it is all the information we need. The more you know, the more you're in danger. I don't know how much I can help. My knowledge on the topic is limited, to say the least. We can't draw any conclusions yet, but him showing up here was all I needed to be convinced that we're on the right track. You're still speaking about it in such an analytical way, even though we've kicked the hornet's nest for real now. Don't worry, I'm well aware that I was lucky and things probably won't end this peacefully if they come calling again. So what's our next move? We need to compile the information we have to finally make sense of everything. I place my hands on their shoulders. Let's hear it. What have you two found out? The residents have noticed an increasing amount of suspicious characters hanging around the neighborhood. They're patrolling the area, at least that's what the residents are saying, but they don't carry around anything suspicious. So, no bags or anything? Carrying around dead bodies makes more than just a bunch of shopping bags. But carrying around dead bodies takes more than just a bunch of shopping bags, wouldn't you say? Constantly wandering around that area casts more than enough suspicion on them. I don't have the surveillance footage, so I can't say anything for certain yet. That's something I can't figure out just by questioning the residents. I wouldn't say that. No, did you find anything? Didn't you mention that they were wearing strange clothes? Not really, apart from the yellow handkerchiefs in their pockets. I see. What about you? After I placed the camera, I went to the empty building and stayed there for a while. Though I couldn't confirm what I had originally set out to, I noticed something else, something unexpected. Neko takes a picture out of her pocket and places it on the table. What? Isn't that a family photo? No, you recognize it? I saw this photo at a woman's apartment yesterday. It's her husband, and their son, David, in the middle. The neighbor next door said they both died a long time ago. Is that so? I was careful with it. It looks old and time has taken its toll on it. A family of 3, dressed in simple clothes. They don't look very happy. At least the child's eyes are still full of life. What is this? There's some strange reflective marks on the heads of the 2 adults. After a close look, it becomes apparent that they're the result of tiny scratches. Someone seems to have written something on it with a pen and then wiped the ink off, leaving only the scratch marks on the pen behind. I tear a page out of my notebook and meticulously redraw the marks. Unsurprisingly, they form a subtle pattern. I feel as if I've seen the same pattern in the book before. It might be a good idea to check again. Where did you find it? By a trash can in the area. The trash seems to get picked up awfully diligently there. Why is that? The neighborhood committee is still working hard in regards to hygiene? And that's unlikely. Without sanitation workers, there's no one to pick up the trash, right? Do you think someone's going through the trash? That's the reason why it disappears so quickly? There are traces of blood on the rooftop. You know people who can analyze that and run tests, right? If all our assumptions are correct, that building is the ideal place for someone to carry out their dirty work in secret. Yet the nearby residents never notice anything suspicious. Come on, Justin, use your brain. Just this once. Or do you need me to spoon-feed you the truth bit by bit? You seem to have tunnel vision. Think outside the constraints of your work as a private investigator. Otherwise it might cause you trouble in the future. Huh? Why are you guys suddenly ganging up on me? I don't have the nerve to explain everything. Could you do the honors? Doesn't seem like I have any other choice. The man who came to Hermitage today seems to have a lot of connection to the Kangyang district. He seemed ready to do whatever it takes to reach his goal. I wouldn't put such heinous crimes past these people. But even if they actually had a motive for those murders, how did they carry the bodies out of the building to where they were discovered? To establish a direct connection between the building and the murderers, there would have to be a way to carry bodies out of there without anyone noticing. What exactly is going on in that neighborhood? Okay, strange happenings in the neighborhood. After conducting some field work, my absurd suspicions have actually been confirmed. Something strange is going on in the Kangyang district. How can I find out more? Boy, okay. This is the tough part of the game. You got 3 choices, or you got 3 strikes, essentially. Okay. Alright, so we investigating the sinkhole. I wasn't able to help Scarlet with the road collapse case in a timely manner, perhaps because I was too preoccupied with other matters. Because of its location on an important traffic route, the pothole will soon be repaired and we won't be able to investigate it. Fortunately, Scarlet was able to collect some information about the pothole before that happened. The edges of the pit were smooth and flat, more like they were melted down rather than destroyed by an explosion. The Kanyan community has originally had a careful, thought-out construction plan, but shortly after the first building was constructed, it had to terminate all subsequent construction work for some reason. The Deliverer's companions also seemed to have an interest in the place, but they failed to settle there and hastily retreated after an odd incident. Let's see, drag marks along the hallway. Clearly only a few people live in this residential building, but the hallways are covered in fresh drag marks. They continue all along the hallway, and judging by their size, the object that caused them must have been rather large. On the family portrait. Justin found a family portrait in Hildy's home, which shows Hildy and her family from when she was young. Neko revisited the residential building the day after the detective visited Hildy's home and found the portrait in the trash can downstairs. Both of the parents' faces in the photos had strange scratches on them. Hildy's secret. According to Lorraine, Hildy's husband and son are long dead, and the two of them are the only ones left in the entire building. However, Hildy has always been reluctant to accept this fact, always thinking that her husband and son are still alive and well, and mentioning this to people from time to time. Legends of the Kanyan district. The poor people who were killed suffered traumas with their similar characteristics. Their limbs were bent and mangled, and they lost a great amount of blood. The forensic pathologist stated that these victims were losing blood at an abnormal rate before they died. However, this is not the first time something like this has happened in the Kanyan district. More than a decade ago, there were cases in which residents were brutally murdered and their blood was drained. Witnesses reportedly saw a giant shadow in the sky making a strange whirring sound. Shrines, Gods, and Messengers 1. In this wonderful book, the author mentions a divine messenger and the mystical branches religions that have been exiled to the east. People call for the existence of a being called the Gargoyle, or Gahul. The word is hard to pronounce in Chinese, perhaps due to some kind of miscommunication after it was translated to the local language. People feed it with blood and flesh and live with it as comrades. Having lost so much knowledge in exile, they had to sacrifice their offspring in a barbaric way to summon the Gargoyle. Its body has the characteristics of a horse and an insect, but its wings are membranous. It hisses like the wind and neighs like a horse at the same time. In flight, light distorts near its lower abdomen. Even the informant who revealed this to me cannot explain the principle. Shrines, Gods, and Messengers 2. In this wonderful book, the author mentions a divine messenger. In the forests of Eastern Europe, far away from human civilization, a group of conspirators is keeping multiple unidentified creatures alive. They are about 10 feet tall and are built like tree trunks. Black tentacles squirm on top of them, and their length and flexibility are beyond words. They smell like rotten soil and seem to have multiple mouths. They move on feet, but witnesses could not observe them touching the ground. Secret investigations have revealed that this unnamed servant seems to be a frequent part of eccentric rituals and dominates its devoted servants, leading them together in frenzied dance. Part 3. In this wonderful book, the author refers to it as Divine Messenger. A more closed-minded Maori Aboriginal Australian knows how to summon a certain alien presence. They call it Wuduha, the meaning of which is unknown. This being appears as frequently as the clan that summons it as part of the clan's rituals of worship to the deity Usadus. These rituals are said to be performed for the clan's departed to leave the filthy earth for heaven. Wuduha has a stout humanoid body, is cloaked in thick skin and fur, with an unusually flat face and a pair of sharp claws. The clan's sorcerers will perform a bizarre dance including 3 people, performing various unrelated acts in sequence. Soon Wuduha will show up out of nowhere and join them. The halberd. In this book, an ancient general conquered the surrounding countries. After every victory, he would lead his entire army to hold a grand sacrifice, holding up a seal towards the sky. He chanted, "We shall forever stand like rocks, be remembered. They will chant our names in glorious songs and celebrate us in joyous dance. Let the beast be forever on our side. Follow the ceremonial rites and chant along with your voice twice as loud as your harvest twice as fruitful. Let us bask in joy and happiness, for good fortune shall favor us, and we shall be protected against whatever sorrow and misery lies out there." Whistling in the night. A neighbor who lives near Hildy's residence mentioned that from time to time a strange whistling sound can be heard in the area in the middle of the night. The creepy sound is somewhere between a horse neighing and a strange instrument playing. Whereabouts of suspicious people? Suspicious people seem to have been roaming around the Kangyang district lately. They seem to gather around trash cans as if to check something. Witnesses said the group was plainly dressed, but each of them carrying a yellow piece of cloth. We need to get out of here. An organization called the Visionary Society unexpectedly visited Hermitage to find some lost book. They want to use the information in these books to go to a place where there is no pain. Empty garbage cans. Residents of Hildy's neighborhood say the garbage cans are being emptied very diligently these days. Neko observed that the trash cans under Hildy's apartment were completely empty. Okay, so strange happenings in the neighborhood. So we are going to say whereabouts of the weird people. I was hanging around the trash cans. They empty the trash cans, apparently. And there are suspicious drag marks in the hallway. Strange happenings in the neighborhood. Informant inquired. Mass murder. We have a few solid facts to build on. Suspicious drag marks were found in the stairway. The way to the roof is locked up awful securely, and a person who got involved with the building has been murdered. We had to put all that together to confirm our suspicions. If we assume the actual murder happened on site, then the homeless man who died must have been transported away from there somehow. It's impossible to pull something like that off in a regular residential building that's swarming with people, so other buildings are out of the question. Why? If you're a stranger, wouldn't people pay less attention to you? The reports mentioned the victim's excessive blood loss, right? And if they went through the sewers, they'd stink up the place. It's too noticeable. That building seems out of place and very desolate, even by the lowest standards in that district. You came to the conclusion that nobody has been carrying anything suspicious, which seems to conflict with our earlier assumptions. But Neko's answer provides a way for both theories to make sense. Which is to say, everything that makes sense if we assume that the person carrying the bodies didn't arouse suspicion. Like a garbage collector? A car wouldn't fit through any of the narrow streets there, but one of those cleaning tricycles used for garbage collection could be used to transport something without anyone noticing or thinking twice. That would be a good explanation as to why people are skeptical of the garbage collectors and why things aren't working according to schedule. The situation there gives a whole new meaning to taking out the trash. It's easy to get your hands on something that looks like a garbage truck, or a garbage rickshaw in this case, and people would never notice if there was one more than unusual driving around. So, that reads really weird. They don't care where it comes from, as long as it gets rid of their trash. So those people have disguised accomplices helping them get rid of their evidence. If that's really their disguise, then it's a good one. I'll give them that. Move the body out of the area via garbage collection and dump it somewhere else. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? The murdered plumber was found at a garbage dump. Apart from that, this disguise easily allows access to a lot of other areas too. You think the same thing happened to Mrs. Yang? You're right. If they used garbage transport, nobody would have paid any attention to it. I should find a way to get a second look at the security footage of that area from that time. There's an awful lot of rickshaws around. It'd take ages for you to spot the right one. It's a shame there's no surveillance in the district. If only Neko could have pulled it off. But you're glad that I got out of there, ain't you? As long as you're not hurt, it's that simple. I just don't want to have to be in a situation like that again. Let's get back on topic, shall we? Now, as for those two elderly women, when you checked out the building, was there anything that would indicate that someone is staying in the rooms on the other floors? The dust is so thick you can barely move through it. Even if you could, the spider webs would stop you. So, in short, no. The roof, on the other hand, is very suspicious. That's right, but those ladies are old, but not deaf. They must have heard something. Something is wrong up there, I'm telling you. I don't trust it one bit. So, what's your guess? One of them has to be in on it, disposing of the body from the roof, concealing it as garbage and dumping it nearby. I'm sure they want their spot to remain hidden. That's why someone close by needs to carry out the bodies, hidden among the trash, before the real garbage disposal workers arrive. That would attract attention if there were many people living there, using the stairs and hallways. But you know what it looks like there. There's nobody around. I can't really find any arguments. If you need time to digest that, maybe calm down a little. I'll be over here sipping tea, ready when you are. No, I'm calm. It makes sense, as much as it pains me to admit it. If anything, that should only motivate us to get to the bottom of this even faster. That sounds way too stoic for you. Have you been watching motivational videos or something? I'm just a small-time detective. I know where my limits are. I can't ask for help from the police and mobilize them without solid evidence. You're thinking about involving the police now? Of course. No matter how you look at it, those two women are involved with a group of murderers. Whether they're accomplices or not isn't important. Them living there already puts them in danger. If we're discovered now, things could turn bad very, very quickly. Wait a minute. If we get the police involved now, we'll have even more to deal with. I'm sure they could help. They have the means, but we don't know everything yet, and is it really worth risking their lives by sending them into a situation we ourselves are still uncertain about? The clock is ticking. I don't think it's up to us to keep them safe. I don't think we could, even if we knew more. This is a big case, with many lives already lost and many more at stake. If someone else gets hurt, how do you expect me to live with myself? Aren't you being too reckless about this? I'm done hesitating. If you don't feel comfortable with it, I'll go talk to them alone. What? What's gotten into you? How can you send them into a situation even you're not sure about? There's no turning back if you do that. At least I could save more lives, couldn't I? I know how hard it is to establish a pattern and catch a murderer. Even my master worked endlessly on cases like that back in the day. So why do you expect our case to be any different? Getting to the truth in such a short time is wishful thinking, nothing more. We've reached a point where we're almost certain that what they are going to do next. If we hesitate now, we're cowards, just like my master. Is that what you are? Do you want to turn back on people who you know are in danger? Are you done? It's really frustrating that you never understand what's going on. Huh? What do you mean? I hate having to spell it out for you. Remember the man who came by the store today? Knowledge is the most dangerous thing in the world, and as it happens, it's the only thing I possess. So, what could he have wanted for someone in my position? Your knowledge, of course. What's wrong with the book they're looking for? To tell you the truth, I haven't looked into it all that much yet. It's a bunch of gibberish that really is a bit too much to handle. But if they can't proceed without it, something important has to be in here. Something important has to be in there. Exactly. So we're in a position of power. If they are connected to the murderers, or to murders, they can't proceed as planned right now. And if they aren't, you don't have to worry about the elderly woman's safety. I have a hard time putting all my trust in a weird book. That just goes against common sense. A lot of things around here can't be explained by common sense, but I agree with you. I'm still in possession of the book, and the equipment Neko and you set up should help provide evidence for our theories. If we act without thinking now, we could lose our advantage. I really need to find someone to help me decipher the meaning of that book. Want me to give Scarlet a call? Well, I don't know. I mean, she would be angry at you if you call. If I do it, she'll lash out at me. I've already demanded way too much of her. Then buy me dinner. Make do with the instant noodles we've got. Neko snorts dismissively and kicks the floor. But why did they want to pick up the garbage today? Are you for real? Do you have a goldfish's memory? The memory of a goldfish is just a myth. I mean, if they use garbage to hide the bodies they're transporting, then why would they head out today? The 3 bodies were basically intact, so what were they picking up today? When I visited the building, Hildy didn't really stop me, and I didn't find anything in her house, but her neighbor was the complete opposite. Well, when you put it that way. Just as I'm giving it further thought, Justin's phone rings at the worst possible time. Justin's expression is as subtle as mine. He signals Neko to be quiet and walks out of the store with a stern expression on his face. What's wrong? All I can do is shake my head. Justin's worry can only be explained one way. After a short while, he ends the call and returns to the store. His expression is gloomy, foreshadowing bad news. The police found another victim. Damaged limbs, massive blood loss, wounds almost identical to the others. Where? At the bottom of a bridge crossing a river, outside of the district. All the victims have been a little way from the district. Yeah, but that's the point. Oh? What is it then? The police have conducted a preliminary investigation. They've taken a look at the body and gathered the most basic information. The deceased is a tall, thin, elderly woman. I think that's a good place to leave it. And we'll stop it there for now. This is audap. You've been watching Hermitage, Strange Case Files on Nintendo Switch. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.